5 Live Formula One.
The Marina Bay Street Circuit comes alive when Formula One is in town, but qualifying certainly ramped things up. Welcome to your Checkered Flag Qualifying Review podcast. It's Harry Benjamin, Sam Bird, Jenny Gow alongside, and we've just not long come off air after seeing George Russell, Sam, take a magnificent pole position in Singapore.
Absolutely, Harry. I think definitely one, if not two, of his best laps in Formula One so far. The first lap had me on the edge of my seat when he brushed the wall out of 17. I thought he was going to lose a chunk of time, but still was about 2.5 tenths clear of everybody. Managed to find 7 thousandths of a second on his second lap. Both laps good enough for pole position this evening. So a really good evening for George Russell.
It's really good, isn't it, Jenny? A real positive momentum from Mercedes here because, I mean, their practice pace, it wasn't bad, but I don't think I was writing them for pole position coming into qualifying.
I don't think anyone was, to be totally honest. It was a total surprise up and down the paddock. And I'm actually here at the Mercedes hospitality. They've been cheering, they've been applauding as Kimi came in, as George came in. It just feels wonderful for a team that couldn't figure out how to perform in warm temperatures. And all of a sudden, they've performed in one of the hottest tracks we go to. What a turnaround, what an achievement, and what a lap from George Russell.
Yeah, they've had things like tyre overheating issues as well. Are we calling is this George Russell's best ever qualifying lap, Sam? Or is this one of the great qualifying laps?
No, this is George Russell's best
You sure?
qualifying laps. For me, Are you going to really put it in the category of one of the greatest ever, something to memorise for decades to come? I don't know. But I got excited watching it. I think maybe a little bit because we were expecting it to be Verstappen versus Piastri versus Norris. And what we got was George Russell versus Verstappen. So maybe that adds something to it. But yeah, I think Lewis Hamilton's lap in 2018 is hard to beat around here.
It certainly takes a lot of precision to put together a lap around here, and George Russell did exactly that, taking pole with a 1:29.158. He spoke in the pen after taking that pole position. He's talking to Jen.
George Russell, congratulations.
Thank you
What
so much.
a pole. Your 7th career, but I think, and Sam Bird in our commentary box thinks it's one of your best ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Very unexpected, to be honest. It's been a weekend where I've been struggling for confidence. I had my first crash of the year yesterday, which knocked me back even more, but I saw my teammate performing pretty well through the practice sessions, which sort of gave me the confidence that there is performance in the car. And come Q2, I was quickest and I knew I had more to give, and both laps in Q3 were mighty strong.
2/3 of the races here have been won from pole.
Yeah.
So those are kind of good odds, George. Are you backing yourself?
I'm not thinking about it, to be honest.
Really?
I'll just
You must be a little bit.
No, not really. Tomorrow's a new day. There's lots of different factors to consider this year compared to previously. The pit lane is quicker this year than before, so that gives more opportunity to us to stop. You might have fast cars like Lando starting on the offset strategy, which may give them an opportunity. So, it's a lot of unknowns. I'll take the pole for today, but I'll just get a good night's sleep tonight and see what tomorrow brings.
Well, have a good night.
Thank you.
Dream well.
He's got a fast-charging Max Verstappen alongside him and a McLaren right behind him. I wonder if he's just thinking, I'm in for a long stint tomorrow with these guys.
Yeah, if you've got Max Verstappen alongside you, you know that wherever you brake, he's going to be braking later than where you brake into turn one. So, it's a long race. Anything can happen. As he said, the pit speed limit has increased to 80 kilometers an hour, which then introduces a little bit more strategy. Could it be a two-stop? Will the McLarens come into play? What are they going to do with their tyre strategy? And then there's Max Verstappen thrown in as well. He's put it on pole, but by no means has he won this race. Not yet, anyway.
He hasn't. He'll have to navigate 62 laps on that front. Max Verstappen qualified second, so not even a McLaren in sight on the front row, Sam. Could Verstappen have got pole today?
Right, I've got a little bit of umbrage with this, and it irks me a
I
little
like
bit.
a sandbird with umbrage.
No, it irks me a little bit because back in my day, 400 years old now, back at my day, traffic was when you literally came across another car and it was like you nearly crashed into it. These days, with modern Formula One cars, traffic means a car is 4-5 seconds up the road. It's because of the turbulent air of the car in front messing up the aerodynamics flowing over the front wing of your car when you're trying to do a qualifying lap. And apparently that's traffic. And people are complaining that people aren't getting in the way. Lando was nowhere near Max, yet, Max is saying that Lando mucked up his lap. And Lando didn't muck up his lap. It's just that Lando's turbulent air went over his front wing and he missed the apex at turn 16. So I don't think it's necessarily mad traffic that Lando was creating.
No, I agree. And when speaking to Max Verstappen, any of the other drivers really, they do understand the challenges that Singapore bring with it, and this track is very difficult to get a clean lap in. That's why they all went out early. They all had banker laps stored up, hopefully, if they'd done it cleanly. And I just think you can't really complain too much about that situation. Yes, Norris was in front of him. So what? Pick a different bit of the grid. Pick a different bit of the track.
Absolutely. Look, Verstappen was looking for that first pole position in Singapore. He didn't get it. He's still on the front row, his fourth front row start in Singapore. Let's hear what he had to say.
Max, how satisfying is it to find yourself in a car that now can challenge for the wins? It just looks like a different car from what you started the season with.
Yeah, it's in a better window for sure. I mean, tomorrow it's still a bit unknown because nobody really did a long run. But it's, at least here now in qualifying, the car definitely felt a lot more competitive. So that's already for us a big step forward.
And if you can just keep on chipping away at Oscar and Lando's lead, that would obviously put you in a position where you could challenge for the championship. Is that on your mind at all?
Well, I mean,
I know you take things race by race.
It's such a big gap, for me personally, I'm not thinking about that when I sit in the car. I just try to optimize everything that I can. And honestly, once we are in Abu Dhabi, we'll see where we are at. I don't really stress about it too much. I just come into every weekend trying to find more performance in the car and then try to, of course, get the best laps out of it myself.
Max Verstappen then, who starts second ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix. He's now out-qualified both McLarens, though, at the last 3 consecutive races. We came into this weekend debating whether Verstappen could be the man that pips McLaren to pole position, to the race wins, and starts being a bit of a thorn in the side for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Ultimately, he has done that, but George Russell is also nicked in there as well, because, Sam, the leading McLaren is Oscar Piastri, and he's in third.
He's in third, but he was quite a way off. It never looked, watching the mini loops and the sectors, it never looked like he was threatening for pole position today. It never looked like Lando was either in qualifying. They looked quick early on this weekend, but as the rubber has been laid down, under the lights this evening, it was always going to be George Russell versus Max looking at it.
Jen, do you think Piastri will take satisfaction from that? Because at least he's ahead of Norris, but I also wonder if he'll be a little bit tentative going into the first corner with Verstappen there as well. Verstappen, nothing to lose. Piastri, everything to lose.
I don't think that even registers with Piastri. Have you ever known him to be tentative into the first corner?
No, I've known him to jump a start, though.
True, but that stress, that obviously has cleared it. I don't think it was ever a thing, but if he does well round here, it proves the point, doesn't it? It was just a bad weekend, so he couldn't really afford to have another bad weekend here. And I think third, with that McLaren, it's obviously not performing at the level they were hoping it would. This is a track that should have been McLaren all over. It should have finished 1-2. And I think a lot of people in the paddock thought that was what would happen. But it hasn't. And the fact that they've been shuffled down the order is quite something if you're looking at which track it is and how dominant they have been through most of this season. And we've still got plenty of rounds left. I know they will walk off with McLaren title this weekend, highly likely unless they crash out. But I mean, the drop-off is quite significant. And I thought it was just a couple of races, fine, they didn't suit it. But for them not to perform at the top here, that brings larger questions.
Well, the race is still to come, Jenny, and I think that with their advantage on tyre life, they're still very much in the hunt for a victory tomorrow. Let's not discount them just yet. And also, they've got such a lead in the constructors. Why should they throw millions and millions at developing this car that they've got in front of them now, when they've got to think about the rules and regulations for the 2026 car? The more brains they can have on next year's car, the better. They're so comfortable right now with the constructors, and to be honest, it would take something really special for Max Verstappen to catch both McLarens now. So I think that it's not necessarily them taking their eye off the ball, it's just that maybe they've got their eyes on something different, and they're just maximising the package that this year's car has to offer right now.
But Sam, that could really affect the Drivers' Championship if they're not going for this year, which I totally understand, and they're looking ahead to next year now and focus has shifted, and they're not making a step up this year, then they might not finish 1-2. And if they don't finish 1-2, then the gaps between the drivers will be harder to close up. Norris has less of a chance to overturn that 25-point gap, and it makes it much more challenging for Norris to actually battle for this championship.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got a point, Jenny, but at the end of the day, the bosses at McLaren have a decision to make, and it's looking ahead to the long-term future of the company and the F1 team. You would want them to focus their attentions on the 2026 car, because that's going to be critical for the next 4 years instead of focusing on this year's car for the next 2 months. So I still think they'll finish first and second in their drivers. They're going to win the constructors. What order they finish in the drivers, I don't know. And it's exciting, but if they don't win every race from now on till the rest of the season, does it matter? No.
It does to Lando Norris, and I'm sure there are plenty of fans listening to this that go, oh, the Norris conspiracy is back. They don't want him to win. They want Piastri to win. I mean, I just...
Yeah, but then the Oscar Piastri fans will be saying the opposite after what happened at Monza. So it's...
If neither get the developments, like McLaren's ethos, right, has been above it all fairness amongst
equality,
both drivers. So if neither one is getting anything, then surely that is the way. I mean, you go back even further, and there was that little tweak to the front suspension, wasn't it, around Canada time, and which Oscar Piastri sort of ultimately didn't want, but it went on Lando Norris's car, and that seemed to help him, and there was a bit of fallout from that, but not that much, because it wasn't affecting Piastri's performance, and he felt like he didn't need it, but it was something that was there to help Norris with his performance. So if you really are scrutinising every single bit of equality, well, I don't think you're ever going to be able to find 100% bulletproofness on that. But I think no other team is bringing huge developments. Red Bull, yes, were bringing tweaks, and they brought that flaw in Monza, but they found themselves in even bigger of a hole than McLaren have been, who've come into this season way ahead of the rest of the game.
Remember as well, McLaren have the least amount of wind tunnel time this season. And maybe at this stage in the season, it's starting to slightly hurt them. I'm not entirely sure, but I think maybe it's a combination of those two, looking ahead to 26 and a lack of wind tunnel time compared to the likes of Red Bull.
It's an interesting story, but we'll continue to talk about. I'll tell you what, why don't we hear from Oscar Piastri, qualified third.
Mercedes was definitely a bit of a surprise to have that much pace. I think Max has been quick the last few weekends, and he's been quick this weekend. But to be lacking, I don't think the position is that much of a surprise, but to be lacking the margin that we did, that's the biggest kind of mystery for us. So we'll go and have a look, I'm sure. But the others have been quick in recent races, so it's not a big surprise that we're not on pole, but we do need to understand why it's so far away.
Do you think you can maximise tomorrow and get more from it than just P3? I mean, still on the podium, but I'm sure you'd like more.
I hope so. We'll see what we can do. It is obviously a very difficult track to overtake on, so that doesn't make things easy. But I think the pace could be good. So we'll see what we can do with that. And there's safety cars here. It's a hot race. It's a tough race. So there'll be opportunities.
Highest starts in Marina Bay for Oscar Piastri in his career so far, P3, and all it takes is for one McLaren to be on the podium come the end of the Grand Prix on Sunday for them to secure the Constructors' title, and then they'll be able to fully focus, supposedly, on the Drivers' Championship fight to
No,
the
you
end
said
of the season.
2026. They're fully focused on 26 now.
Well, the team may be, but then they can let the drivers get on with it, because then they would have sealed. They've got the team's championship. This is the thing. There's different ethoses up and down the grid, right? Red Bull don't care about the Constructors' Championship. They care about their number one driver winning the title. Ferrari, I would argue to a certain extent, do that as well when they are in a position to do so. Maybe harder when Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton are their are their drivers, but when you look back in the history of it, they have a very clear number one and number two. McLaren have made clear that they don't have that. Their focus is more on securing the team's championship. So that's where I'm coming from, at least. But just to come back, because I think we can really go off on this one, that run down to turn one and then the opening sequence of corners, turns 2 and 3, it's almost a sort of S shape that you navigate, Sam. How crucial is that going to be going down there when you have the likes of Verstappen ahead of Piastri? You've got 3 different teams inside the top 3.
Yeah, it's a challenging one, actually. Luckily, there's quite a lot of runoff between turn 1 and turn 3. I can imagine we're going to see a couple of drivers using that escape road as people dive down the inside or lock up and run wide into turn 1. We've seen, which was the wet race, where the...
When
who
Palmer
was it? Kimi,
came
right?
through
Kimi,
to get 6th place in Singapore, and
there
the
we
2
go.
Ferraris took each other out.
Exactly.
And
The
Verstappen.
Vettel and Raikkonen and Verstappen and Alonso were all involved in a melee at turn 1. I can't remember the year. Was it 2017?
I'm trying to chart Jolyon Palmer's career. It was 2017.
2017. Absolutely.
Gal?
So,
I'm bringing very little to this conversation. I'm so sorry. I'm just looking through my phone, actually, because there was a massive board of all the winners and all the people that finished on the podium in the media centre, and I took a picture of it because I thought that might be useful. And now I'm scrolling through the many, many photos that I have on my very decrepit iPhone, and I can't... Oh, hang on. I can't find it. Yeah, I found it, but I can't tell you which
It was
one
17. Found it. It was 17.
There we go. I've stalled enough to save the day.
You've just got to look through Jolyon Palmer's race results and see the 2 points finishes for him, and you find it.
you're horrible.
I know,
You're so horrible.
He left us, and now we're
Stuck with me.
delighted to have Sam Bird instead.
What a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish.
Well, you talk about it because actually, Jenny, do you know? Quick, here we go. Get your weather
Okay.
wrap up. What's the rain saying for Sunday? What's the weather saying for Sunday?
I'm going to call it as a dry race. I mean, the app does say 45% chance of rain, but that's throughout the day, and I think that's scheduled a bit earlier, maybe about 8 o'clock in the morning. So from the predictions that I have available to me, limited, I would say dry race.
Okay, dry race from Gal. We shall see what happens. I'd like a bit of a damp race, maybe wet to dry. That'd be nice.
That would be ideal.
Exactly. But when you're 140 kilometres north of the equator, it can be a little bit varied. Right, we've done the top 3. 4th was Kimi Antonelli. Jen, did you get a chance to speak to Kimi? Decent result for him this weekend.
Very disappointed, though.
Oh.
Very disappointed. He knew in his mind pole was up there. And he had some really good sessions, and he strung it together, and he thought he had a very disappointing Q3. Him and Isaac Hadjar, both very disappointed as rookies. You think, they'll give themselves a bit of leeway. Not at all. They were both disappointed, and I definitely think Antonelli thought pole was there for him.
Well, I had predicted Antonelli, Sam, didn't I? But I got it wrong. But
No, who did I predict? Harry?
You know what? It eludes me, actually.
Of course.
It eludes me.
No, do you know what? Antonelli has looked very quick, and he's able to put in some mighty sectors, but it never looks like he's actually able to piece the full lap together yet. Whereas George Russell, it was like clockwork. He was able to piece a lap together when it mattered because he had the car underneath him. Kimi's a rookie, as we've said. Kimi's still learning. the pace is coming. It's getting there.
It's a good recovery, good momentum, I should say, for Kimi, who had a good Baku as well after a bit of a torrid European season, finding a way forward in all of his preparations as well. He has qualified ahead of Lando Norris. That's where the second McLaren lies, off the back of a race where everyone was scrutinising, didn't quite capitalise on Oscar Piastri not scoring any points. The gap is still 25 between himself and Piastri. So for Norris in fifth, that's got to be pretty devastating.
Absolutely. He was not the best interview I've ever done, I would say. He didn't really want to talk, and he gave a couple of one-word answers to people. I tried to get more out of him, but he wasn't up for talking. He was frustrated with himself, frustrated with the car, frustrated with life. He said that he thought Mercedes and Red Bull had made a step forward and they haven't. So yeah, just one of those interviews that you go, oh dear. I feel for him because he wanted to come here and win, and that is going to be very difficult from fifth position.
It is going to be difficult. They do still have the tyre longevity up their sleeve. So it's not out of like the question that he could still go on and win this Grand Prix. He could definitely still come on the podium. But I do get his frustration at the moment. He was desperate to try and outqualify Oscar Piastri. And this World Championship, it's just going to continue to get more and more difficult if he doesn't get big points over his teammate.
Hamilton won from fifth in 2017. Could Norris do the same thing? He qualifies ahead of Lewis Hamilton, the leading Ferrari. So, Sam, actually, this is generally an improvement from him. I thought Baku, for both Ferrari drivers, was they failed to really maximise their potential there. I think there was more in the car, and Hamilton, even with the lacklustre result, is feeling more and more confident in his surroundings, which I think is almost the more important thing, and qualifies ahead of Charles Leclerc for this weekend.
Yeah, I think that Lewis has had a difficult week, in all fairness. Personally, he's had a challenging week, and I thought that might translate to a difficult weekend on the track. I think he's been able to put aside the difficulties that he's experienced off track, obviously with losing his beloved dog, and he's driven very well. That car, though, is 3 to 4 tenths off the pace all the time, and they don't seem to be making inroads to be anywhere near getting a pole position or near a win at the moment. I mean, Hungary was their big chance, but then for me the tyre pressures were completely wrong for Charles Leclerc in the last stint. But Lewis Hamilton, that will fill him with a little bit of confidence.
It will, ahead of Charles Leclerc, the two Ferraris 6th and 7th. Let's hear from the leading Ferrari. He spoke to Jen.
Spoke to Charles. Obviously, you've outqualified him, which is one tick in the box for you. But he was equally disappointed, frustrated, at a loss of where you can go with this car, and focusing on 26 is the only option. Do you just kind of blow away the rest of this season and go, fine, it's not going to happen, let's fully focus on next year and not worry about this one at all?
Well, I mean, we know that Red Bull brought an upgrade recently.
It's worked.
It's worked. And I don't know if Mercedes has, but it looks like they've taken a step. They did.
Well, they've found something. And they can now run in hot.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do that before.
They can now what?
They can now run in the warm temperature, and they couldn't do that before.
They bring a new wing, I think. Yeah, something's happened, and they've now taken a step. We've not had an upgrade, and we just have to persevere with what we have. And it's definitely going to be very, very tough. As you can see now, both Mercedes are qualifying ahead of us. It's going to be very tough for us to get that second in the constructors, which I was really, really hoping for. But it's been a really, really difficult season in this. But we won't give up. We'll keep trying and trying to extract more. I do still believe in the potential and what we can do. At the moment, we're just limited by the tools we have. But I really see this I really see these weekends as like a test weekend. We're not fighting for a championship. It's a test day. The test days for us to make all the mistakes we need to make to highlight all of our weaknesses, and trust me, there's plenty, and really try to pinpoint those, and then figure out how we can change processes or change the way we do things so we can capitalize on the true potential of what we have and as a team. So that's what I'm trying to work on in the background.
Lewis Hamilton then speaking after qualifying 6th. Quite an interesting chat you had with him, Jenny. Comes back to our sort of development chat that we had towards the start of the pod when you're looking over the barriers at Mercedes and McLaren and Red Bull. But clearly he's very much, maybe not that optimistic, but very much just treating everything as a test.
And listening to him and also to his teammate Charles Leclerc, he was so disappointed and so upset at the form that Ferrari, or the car, I suppose, that Ferrari have offered them. And if you look at their quality, these are two drivers who are world class. And both of them could challenge for championships. We know Lewis has in the past, but he still can, I believe. And Leclerc could challenge if he was provided a car that's good enough. And I think the question would be, how long can Ferrari continue to not deliver the car that both drivers warrant, deserve? And certainly for Charles Leclerc, at the midpoint of his career, Sam, I feel like he's asking himself those questions of, how long do I keep sticking with Ferrari? If they don't give them a car that can perform and win, or at least challenge for championships, surely at the end of next year he has to look at himself and go, I need out, I've got to go somewhere else.
I mean, I think that's probably for an interim pod, that question, Jenny. But I think
I'm so sorry.
No. That's it's fascinating. But look, what Charles Leclerc does in the future, he's got a long-term contract with Ferrari. But you're right, Ferrari haven't really won anything for a long period of time. I think that a little bit like McLaren, but for a different reason, they're going to be all eyes focused on 2026.
Well, Hamilton has out-qualified Leclerc for the 5th time this season, so that is something to take and put in his back pocket as we go racing tomorrow. Behind Hamilton was Leclerc. Isaac Hadjar kind of winning that battle of best of the rest, ahead of really good result for Ollie Behrman, who I think has had a really good weekend so far in the Haas and could do with some points on the board. He's fallen down to 19th in the Drivers' Championship, so looking to try and get some more bagged for his Haas team. Fernando Alonso, the wily old fox, managed to work his way inside the top 10. Outside of it was Hulkenberg. Now, Albon and Sainz currently 12th and 13th, but they are set to be disqualified for a technical infringement. This is something to do with the DRS system on board their Williams cars. So to keep up to date with the exact information on that story, you can head over to the BBC Sport website. But on the road, they were 12th and 13th, ahead of Liam Lawson, Tsunoda down in 15th, with Bortoletto, Stroll, Colapinto, Esteban Ocon was 19th, and Pierre Gasly had issues in Q1 and had to pull off the road, so he will be 20th and last. Standouts outside of the top 7, Sam Bird?
8th place, Isaac Hadjar, then?
Yeah, oh, okay, fine.
I think that Liam Lawson did okay because of the difficulties he had in FP2 and FP3. Difficult to really go outside of the superlatives of George Russell. I think that the day belonged to him. Fair play, 2 great laps, and look forward to the race tomorrow.
For me, Lawson, undoubtedly comeback of maybe his career, to go from crashing out of FP2, crashing out of FP3, coming to qualifying and then nailing it on 14th, and if Sainz and Albon are disqualified, as you say, then he starts on the road P12. What a turnaround of form. From the barriers to P12, I think he'd take that all day long.
Okay, with that then, Jenny, who is taking the win after 62 laps on Sunday?
I mean, it's hard to see past Russell. 2/3 of races have been won from pole here. And he is now a wild old fox, just like Fernando Alonso. And I think he can keep things clean, I think he can keep people behind him. And with Kimi Antonelli starting for P4, they can kind of play the team game, maybe develop a little hole so we can come and pit. So I'm backing George.
And Sam?
If he gets the start, I think he can get. I'm going to go with Max Verstappen to win tomorrow.
And I'm going to go with Lando Norris from 5th up to 1st.
What?
Those are my predictions. And we'll leave it there, shall we? Thank you very
Fine.
much. I'll take no further questions on that. Thank you very much for your company. That is qualifying done and dusted. George Russell will start on pole position for the Singapore Grand Prix. 62 laps around the Marina Bay Street Circuit. And you can hear it all live with the team on Sports Extra. Lights out from 1 o'clock in the UK. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.